former President Barack Obama campaigned in Philly this week, part of the Biden campaign's push to turn out his core voters. His message concentrated on character.
I never thought Donald Trump would embrace my vision or continue my policies, but I did hope, for the sake of the country, that he might show some interest in taking the job seriously. But it hasn't happened. The thing is, this is not a reality show, this is reality.
Asma, it's about Philadelphia and turning out urban voters, turning out suburban voters. It's also about that in Detroit. You were in Michigan this week talking to voters. What does it mean to have former President Obama back on the trail?
You know, I was struck. I was actually out with him on that trip to Pennsylvania earlier this week. And, you know, to me, he had sort of multiple different audiences of Democratic core base voters he was trying to reach. Certainly the activists within the party, but a very key constituency of the Democratic Party that it seems like he was specifically speaking to is what I would call disillusioned Democrats of 2016. These are people, largely young black and brown voters who perhaps did not vote in 2016 or maybe voted and left the top of the ticket blank. You know, he held a drive-in car rally, President Obama, where a lot of activists were there. But prior to that, he actually held a pretty small round table with a, select group of African-American men, maybe a dozen or so people there. And one of the consistent themes of questions that came up from people was, how do you get folks who are just, disaffected, disillusioned with this process, don't really feel like voting makes a difference? How do you get them to actually participate this year? And President Obama's message there was that, in his view, progress can be slow. Progress can not necessarily happen as quickly as folks may want. And he acknowledged that under his own administration, they were not able to really combat systemic racism or police reform in ways that maybe, he even would have hoped, but that it's better than sitting out the process entirely. And I will say, Bob, this is a theme that I heard a lot when I was out in Detroit as well. Detroit's a place where you could make the argument the election was so close in 2016 that had you had, a lot more sort of African-American turnout in Wayne County or even Arab American turnout from Dearborn, you might have seen a different election result. And those are the folks that I was really interested in speaking with. I think there is a recognition among many of them that the stakes are different this time around, regardless of how they feel personally about Joe Biden.
Susan, can you build on that a little bit? Because what we're seeing from President Trump, and I was talking to some Trump campaign officials earlier today, is of course they're trying to stoke the base in western Pennsylvania, in western Michigan, central Pennsylvania, but they're also trying to depress the Democratic vote, going after Vice President Biden on the 94 crime bill, going after Vice President Biden on immigration and the Obama record. How does that calculus play out in all of these states?
Yes, and of course, we've moved now in the last 11 days of the campaign from trying to persuade undecided voters, if there are any of them left, into trying to turn out the voters who are already for you. And that's why we see President Obama out there speaking to Democratic audiences saying, please go to the polls. It is possible to depress Democratic turnout, as it was depressed in some places in 2016. And I actually think that's the biggest problem with Vice President Biden's comment on transitioning away from fossil fuels and on fracking in the debate last night, because they can be used in a state like Pennsylvania to raise some questions about maybe the personal economic consequences of electing Biden. Not that those voters will then go out and vote for Trump, but maybe they won't go out and bother to vote. This is a problem that Vice President Biden's going to have if he wins, the pressure between progressives who were very happy to hear what he had to say about fracking and transitioning away from fossil fuels, but at odds with some of these more centrist, more moderate voters from energy states like Pennsylvania who are concerned about that policy.